Comments coming in, Trevor, about the unpredictability of the school calendar. And we're seeing some commotion there at the National Tallying Center. Let's listen in and find out what exactly is happening.
Is someone being bundled?
Should we try and listen into that and see if we have sound?
Very unnecessary.
There were more security men in there
than when you were last. We're not able to. This should be maybe the third, fourth incident, but I think someone's being pulled out. So what's happening right now is that there's a heightened level of suspicion amongst the political players there. Anything they see is flagged immediately. For example, I'm told a couple of minutes ago, one side of the political agents of our presidential candidate there raised concerns about an IEBC official who they deemed as suspicious. Yeah. Police actually intervened and took that official away for questioning. But the question now is, anything deemed as suspicious is acted upon. The matter is escalated immediately.
This is almost what Francis Gashuru was saying earlier on, that initially there was demands for lasers to just prove that the forms that are there are the legitimate ones. Then this is also coming just a few moments after there were direct instructions that only the returning officers, officials, and the agents, official agents and the deputy agents, plus maybe one assistant, should be allowed around that region, and observers plus the media. So it's not very clear who is being ejected or even why, but there seems to be a bit of a fracas there involving the police, in as much as we know that 265 returning officers are already at the Bomas of Kenya. Let's listen into what's going on there.
I want to announce to the nation that Bomas of Kenya is a scene of crime.
Somebody has just made their way to the dais there. And this is what the IEBC was talking about yesterday, Wahiga and Trevor, when they said that security personnel would be deployed and even more police officers would be stationed there if need be. And these are some of the occurrences, perhaps, that would then essentially make security a very critical component in terms of their visibility there, their availability there, just to curb such situations. That gentleman there, we're yet to establish who exactly that was, has just made his way across the central part of the auditorium and made what seemed to be an announcement.
An allegation, to be more specific, and Francis Wanderi, one of the IEBC commissioners, was on hand to quickly move that gentleman away from the mic, and security also quickly, jumped in to take control of the situation. It's very worrying because only official announcements are supposed to come from that platform, not just any, for lack of a better word, Tom, Dick, and Harry can just make their way up there and address those present and the millions watching across various TV stations. But Trevor, you remember earlier on, Professor Abdi Yakub Gulie making that announcement of changing access to the Bomas of Kenya. Now you see why it was important. Only chief agents, deputy chief agents, and IEBC clerks are allowed there. But as I look at the setting in this room, Trevor, it still feels like there are more people there than should be present. And Roslyn,
it seems there wasn't much movement there,
affirming that she's seeing a lot more people there today than when were you last there?
Are they even more than when?
This afternoon, but I think the crowds pick up in the evening.
So it seems that most of them have not been kicked out, as was mentioned earlier on, because at the time when there were 265 returning officers there, and so far only 141 had been processed, some of the returning officers having stayed there for more than 3 days. The Chebukati mentioned that the returning officers on the queue shall proceed and also be processed through, but He said that the Bomas of Kenya will only have make access to agents, deputy chief agents, and nobody else should access Bomas.
And if you notice something
earlier on, Dr. Dede was saying that the politicians make their way to observers and the media only.
Yes.
Lillian?
And we've just received information from the Bomas of Kenya that that allegation that we just heard, or an attempt at that allegation, was made by Saitabao Olekanchori. He is a chief agent, and we are at the Raila Odinga camp, and we are going to establish exactly why that happened and why he found it necessary.
Tempers are still flaring there. That is still Millie Mabona there, just pointing fingers, and maybe we could listen in as we find Francis Gashuri to see what's going on there and get an update. But there's a lot of tempers just flaring at the Bomas of Kenya, where the Form 34As are still being verified. But
I hadn't actually noticed that indeed that was Saitabao. He looked different. We see him in suits, and he was here on JKL just the other day. So that, actually, now come to think of it, that was probably him, chief agent for the Azimio team. But of course, I think there are different ways to share some of your concerns as opposed to going up on stage. And you can definitely see the concerns there. But Trevor, one thing I just want to notice briefly, activity has slowed down. On the floor of that auditorium. We are already way behind on the schedule. Interruptions like this means that we're pushing forward the time when Wafula Chebukati will be confident enough to stand and announce the results, because this delay, because it has that spiral or spillover effect.
And he did decry it. He actually mentioned that it takes about an hour to process just one returning officer, and there are 265 who already arrived there. But Kevin, when you see such kind of scenes, it comes back to what Omolo was saying, that elections here is a game of perception. Most people think that something wrong is happening somewhere, despite it being electronic. What more could IBC do then to restore the faith of the electorate in the entire process? Because when they see such scenes, then they're like, okay, maybe something is really happening somewhere.
Trevor, this is a serious issue. One, of course, is a security concern, because if you look at the arrangement around the National Tallying Center, for you to get to the extent where you actually get to the speaker and make a statement, even if it is just saying hi, that is a serious, unless you are authorized. It is a serious breach of security. It is a serious breach of protocol. And what the commission can be able to do is to open up its communication mechanism, communicate to the public. And because this is being aired on live television, and it is actually